Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine. Fred, we hear you were just in Ukraine. Tell us.
It was a life-changing trip, to be honest with you.
What was your goal?
My goal was several-fold. We have accounts over there set up so that we can actually transfer money and pay folks in Ukraine as
Okay.
necessary. And we have had an acting nominal director for the charity that we set up there. And I became the acting director of that. So I had to be present, and we changed all the bank accounts around to do that. I also executed a set of legally a set of powers of attorney, because what we're trying to do is set up for-profit entity that would support Ukrainians who need work and can create something that we can sell either in the EU or in the United States to help them. And then I met with a number of other NGOs, and we are launching a program to help. I repeatedly was told on the train. I was sitting next to a young woman by the name of Olga, and that was quite a train ride. And when we have time, I'll tell you the story. But she was going back to Kyiv for the first time in over 2 years.
Wow.
She's a computer science, computer engineer working in Germany, and her husband is also Ukrainian. They're newly married. Her parents lived in Bucha. Their house was destroyed. They moved to Kyiv, and they had a dacha in southwest of Kyiv. And so as she was talking, I said, what do you need? What are you seeing here? And she said, um, psychological help.
Mm.
And she sought it in Germany because she was having an awful lot of guilt having to do with not being there. But she said, I have friends who have been murdered by the Russians. They're gone. I have friends whose kids have been taken by the Russians. I have friends whose kids and they have seen, murder on their streets as part of this. And she said, I was able to go get help, but many people don't have that option. So serendipitously, and it brought me to tears pulling into the station in Kyiv, because as an airline pilot, I remember the days when people could come to the gate and they'd see their family off or see their family. We all see the family arrive, and the people on the platform were holding flowers, and the people on the train were getting up to find their loved ones, and they get off, and I have not experienced the level of just emotional connection and hope and the relaxation of seeing their families again, whether those arriving or those on the platform. And so everybody's in tears, including me. And Olga walks up and she said, here's Fred. He's here to help us. And so that set off the first of an idea. And then serendipitously, I went into a cathedral there and asked to speak with a priest about what we could do, because I'm trying to pull together some of the faith-based organizations in Atlanta with faith-based organizations in Kyiv or in Ukraine. And so I asked this priest, can I talk to you? No. It's like, okay, wow. That didn't expect that. So I walked around to the back and found this room. And by the way, Google Translate is your friend when you go over there. And I Google translated what I was trying to do. And this room was filled with women sorting food, a food bank in this church. And she thought for a minute and got back in touch, said something in Telegram. She said, follow me, sent me to another guy. I ended up talking with an NGO that we're going to partner with, who is providing psychological care help within the schools. It includes a training program for teachers. It includes non-aggressive play, games, things like this to get kids who have witnessed just horrors. And I heard stories of that. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm hearing this twice. And then I ended up going to Irpin and Bucha. I saw things that just breaks your heart. And I ended up at another church, all locked up, ended up walking around that church, and there was a bomb shelter partially underground on the location of that church. And I, again, Google Translate is your friend. And I said, here's what I'm trying to do. And the guy said, wait a minute. And within about 5 minutes, a guy shows up, and he and I bonded like white on rice. He's actually in the military. I get telegram messages from him. They are on the 2nd, he said, getting ready for a major attack. And he, a very religious guy. I thought he was the priest at first. He said, no, I'm airborne. And then we kind of rocked along in terms of being a pilot. And his partner is also providing care to children in that area and toward the front. So again, and psychological help is part of what they're trying to do as well. A lot of children have witnessed so much traumatic stuff. I heard the story of Anna, a young girl who witnessed murder in the street in front of her house. She was out front when it happened, and she quit talking, and it had been months of that. And through this program in the school, and her teachers were really worried. She's regressing, she's falling behind, she's in a way not here. All of that stuff, nothing was available. And they implemented this program in the school where she is, and she's beginning to talk again. So that's our goal for now. I also found out, contrary to what I thought, Ukraine has most of what it needs in terms of physical stuff already there, and their economy in terms of money transfer is much better than in the United States. Everyone has the equivalent of Zelle over there. They can transfer money to each other. They can buy goods. The problem is they don't have jobs, and those goods are available. So I have some stuff I still need to talk to you to ship for next winter. But again, the guy said, we don't need a lot of clothes. That's here. What kids would probably like and will be needed is coats in the winter, because they all grow out of what they have. So that might be something we can think about, that sort of thing. But most of the goods are there. And then again, this 3-hour talk, he said, there are charities, NGOs coming in here with $50 million, some of them. And he said they're scaling what they're doing to get the most benefit over here, or for their annual reports. And he said they're missing this whole section of people that need help. And he gave me an example. He said there's a town just east of Bakhmut, just west of Bakhmut, that's been in the zone of fighting and is now held basically right now by Ukraine. And he said the town had 30,000 people. There were basically 3,000 or 4,000 people left. 3,000 people left. He said it might be 4, but he said I think it's closer to 3. And he said this town, they needed basic stuff in the town. They needed diapers. They needed basic medicines. They needed some durable medical equipment, that sort of thing. $1,500. One woman, 2-page sheet. This is what this little town needs right now. And he's in a major organization. He used to be with Habitat for Humanity. His partner is in the humanitarian space. They couldn't get any of the big organizations to bite, not one. And so they went out, $750 each, bought everything on the list, and solved that town's problem then. Not forever, then. And that just, to me, was like, and he said they're missing this whole segment, and the needs aren't huge, they're doable, but the big NGOs aren't getting to them. So I came back. I went in wanting to do some legal stuff, provide a way to do some more of what we want to do without having to send documents, so that the lawyers that I've hired can do what they need to do. But it was life-changing. It was simply, we are so lucky. I came back here. We just don't realize how lucky we are.
Yeah.
They are strong, they're resilient, they are going to win this war without a doubt. They're self-sufficient. They don't want, they need aid. They're proud, and they don't want, what do we call it here? They don't want an unending give out. They just need a hand up. So that was my trip, and I'd love to share more with individuals and individually. Getting around was easy when I was there.
Okay.
So anyway, let me know.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. So I'm curious, so the mental health piece is what was made clear to you. Is that a really different departure from what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I thought most of what was needed, because we kind of look at it from this side as material things. The material things are there. They just can't buy them. They need jobs to get what they need. And then mental health is, it is huge. It is a huge problem. Think traumatic, traumatic stress syndrome. For again, Olga said, I have friends who've been raped by the Russians. I have friends who have seen their families killed. I have friends whose children have been taken, and the aid needs to be scaled, and the Ukrainian government even knows that it needs to provide this long term, but it's not there right now. And so this program, and we're not doing it alone. We're going to partner with the organization over there and all of that. But it's in the schools. It involves teaching the teachers to support the program. It involves registered psychologists, clinicians who work with the teachers in the schools. Again, a lot of it is how to get children to get away from the sense of aggressive games to, there isn't aggression toward me, how to begin to talk through what they've seen, through everything from games to outside things to interactions that, again, support the coming together and us. And I don't want to use safe spaces because that's used, but a place where they know they're safe and where they can interact with each other without aggression. And it's working, and it meets all of the APA and international guidelines for providing that sort of aid. So that's, that to me just kind of hit home. They don't need generators, not so much right now. Power's up pretty much throughout the country. Now this dam thing that happened, this bombing of the dam, damn thing that's happened, that may change the logistics of power a little bit, but food is pretty plentiful. It's getting it into those areas where it's needed. So the items that are needed are in country, and shipping huge amounts of items may not really be as productive as I would have thought a year ago and now. Right. I want to get what we've collected over to them and meet up with you in terms of getting that done. But I've kind of realigned. Here are things that we can do that will make a difference for kids, in particular.
Sure.
So, and I'd like to publish that on your site in this and try to start getting this out.
Yeah,
It's going to
absolutely.
take
Thank
some
you.
fundraising to do it.
Yeah. You said it was easy to get around over there and you were clearly in several different areas. Did you feel safe when you were there?
I did. You know, I wouldn't have thought it, but Uber works over there
Okay.
and it works very well. Another little story, one of my Uber drivers, we're talking, and he's Syrian, married to a Ukrainian woman. And he and his wife were in Homs.
You can do that in the contacts app.
Sorry, he and his wife were in Homs, Syria, when the Russians attacked Syria.
Okay.
He's batting 0 for 2 so far. He's an electrical engineer, so you can get around in Uber. Did I feel safe? Yes and no. Kyiv was this juxtaposition between folks that were becoming complacent because there hadn't been any missile attack for 51 days. And I was pretty insistent on where would I go? Okay, because we see the bad parts, but they were living in this space where it hadn't happened for a period of time. But that's all changed in the last month.
Right.
You know, so did I feel safe? Yes and no. I was always, as a psychologist, rats are thigmotactic, meaning they walk along walls. I was very thigmotactic. I wanted to know where I could go if one of the, the drone type missiles came in, because some of them you're just not going to see in time, period.
Sure.
But if the alarm went off, if the app went off, where would I go? Where can I get in a building, or if I'm out on a sidewalk below ground? So, and so you're always thinking of that. Apparently the app that you use over there is tied directly to the government. And from what I understand, the government of Ukraine, due to our surveillance of what the Russians are doing, has between a 10-minute to a 1-hour notice. They can see things beginning to happen well in advance, and that app goes off, and so there is time to respond generally. Going in Kyiv, everything was pretty much open, but all the revetments and tank, the things we see on TV, they're all pulled to the side of the road, so traffic can move, but they're all sitting there ready to be moved in place if necessary. As I went up to Irpin and Bucha, I went right past that bridge that the Ukrainians dropped, that they're now rebuilding. And it's really amazingly scary how close the Russians got. Think Sandy Springs or Marietta, or no, the Chattahoochee River to downtown Atlanta. That is how close they got. And Irpin and Bucha are the equivalent of Marietta or Sandy Springs, where all of those atrocities happened. Once you get there, you're stopped, you're searched, that sort of thing. Military with, on the street with dogs, they're searching every vehicle because it's a vector of, especially coming back in.
Right.
They want to know. When you go to Kyiv on the train, you're told in Przemysl, United States passport, your government doesn't want you to go there. Yes. As soon as you cross the border, you will have no consular support. Yes. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. Stamp. And then you get on the train. There are military on every car of the train. 5 guys go into the front of the train. You cross into Ukraine, and all of a sudden you're in this, I was in this area of Klieg lights, where you've just gone through razor wire, and now you're in Ukraine next to APCs and a lot of military material. The guards switch out, and they want to know, the Ukrainians, who you are, why you're there, what your purpose is. I have a work permit now to work in Ukraine, so I could provide that sort of
Mhm.
information. But especially and then they say your name very loudly on the train, which I thought was really weird. But I found out from Olga, I said, "Hi, I'm Fred." And she said, "I know." And she said, "Do you know why they said that? And your name so loud, and American citizen, United States citizen." I said, "No." And she said, "Because we're responsible for your safety. If something happens, we are responsible for getting you back across the border. We are responsible for your safety." And my lawyer said the same thing. It just stops your heart right then and there. They take, and in my mind, I had 10 days of food in my backpack. I knew I would follow the train track back out if something really, really bad happened. None of that was realistic in terms of happening, but then here the Ukrainian people are saying, "We will protect you." And I heard that over and over again. "Do not worry, we will protect you." And I said to my attorney, I said, "If something really, really bad happened," and he said, "We would put you in a car and we would personally drive you to the border." So that's how the Ukrainian people respond. Gas was available, transit was available. You could go anywhere you basically wanted to until you get toward the front. And then the military stops you because the sappers are trying to, a lot of stuff's been mined. And at that point, they don't let civilians into certain places because of that. So anyway,
Thank
I've
you.
taken way too much time, but it was a life-changing event.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions for Fred while he's in the hot seat?
Sorry, I'd hoped you would.
That's fine. We appreciate you
Great.
sharing that. We rarely have someone on the call that has been there
Yeah.
and been there so recently to be able to share firsthand what they've seen, what they've experienced, people they've talked to. So thank you for sharing.
Mhm. And I plan to be going back in October at the latest. So, and our Polish foundation is also up and running. The Ukrainian one has been for a year. The Polish one was just approved by the government. And so we're working on a program there to help those 150 orphans, the children that came out of Ukraine who are in Stargard, with some of the same services, but some of that's a little bit different. Think kids that need things for school, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like a backpack drive is what we're
Sure.
headed at.
Okay.
So,
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
No, that was
Thank you for
wonderful.
letting me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Maureen, I'll let you go next.
Well, thank everyone for joining us. Thanks, Fred, for starting us off with some, real world sort of current connection to what's going on. For those of you on the call and watching afterwards, you know that we have been in the fight here, distant or remotely, for the past since the very beginning. And so we have been working hard to really make some connections in matchmaking, like we've talked about in the past, get aid there, really facilitate, those in our network to make contact with one another in order to do the right thing and use, our logistics expertise and ability to build relationships, outside of the continental US in order to bring some humanitarian aid to the region. Today we have a couple announcements, but the main one that I wanted to address kind of first off was that, as most of you know, we've been sponsoring for a while. We are sponsoring multiple shipments a month. And then in the past 9 months, we moved to be sponsoring one shipment a month, but we've reached our, donation capacity for this sort of initiative. So moving forward, we're still going to be willing and excited and happy about managing the logistics and making connections and things like that for our community and the greater communities, but we just won't be able to fund it like we have been doing in the past for a lot of it. So it's sad news because we know that there's so much work that still needs to be done, but we had just kind of reached our financial capacity to do that. But we wanted to make sure it was clear in this message and then in the accompanying, attachments when we send out the recap, is that this doesn't mean that we are not going to be doing anything in Ukraine or that we are cutting off the initiative totally. It's just more that the only thing that's changed is some of the funding aspect. So for those of you watching or on the call or seeing after, we are still here to help set up shipments, manage them, help find consignees, help connect, with those who have donated material, those who need material of all different shapes and sizes. Just the only difference is just, some of the funding. We still believe that this is an important cause of support. So just internally, it's just shifting how that's actually happening. And so we're going to pause our meetings, our monthly meetings for a bit. As some of you regular attendees have seen, just the actual attendance and attention has dwindled a bit. So we want to make sure that we're being effective and respectful of everybody's time. And, we still have things on our website and on LinkedIn and Instagram and all ways to contact us. So we're not disappearing, into the forest here and abandoning anyone that wants to still continue to pursue this initiative with us. So those were the two sort of main announcements I wanted to make. Christy, I'm not sure if you have anything to add with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. So one, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching later. This has been a really amazing thing to be a part of. And we're so grateful for everybody who's lent a hand in some way. And there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, as well as, the meetings and who shows up. So big thank you to everybody who's been involved, big or small. As Maureen said, we are a global shipping company, Vector Global Logistics. So we are still shipping. We will still continue shipping aid into that area. Like Maureen said, we just won't be able to sponsor at 100% like we have been doing. The other thing I do want to make clear on that, though, is that any shipments we are handling, we are not marking those up as well. So we're just passing on whatever the cost is, which are, as some of you know, and who is participating in the calls before, Hapag-Lloyd has been a terrific partner for us in this. And so they are passing their costs along at cost either. So things aren't getting marked up as well. So wanted to just make that clear that we are still doing this. The other thing too is, and I think it actually segues really well with what Fred said earlier about just the mental support. And so the other thing that you all have been aware of that we've been doing over the past 6-ish months now are the children's letters. And so we actually just got one of our teammates is a former teacher. And so her school just sent another batch of letters, 169 letters. So now we've collected over 2,400 letters. And so those are still being distributed. We know once we got past the holidays, that would also slow down significantly because that works better as a campaign than a year-round type thing. But yeah, we just got some more pictures of them going to a classroom and just how those were just so well received and just so appreciative, and allowing kids to feel supported from other kids, I think is a big deal. And that was always a big part of this. And so if you want to collect letters, we're still available to send those out with shipments as well to some of our partners. And then the third thing is more just same thing with the meetings. We have known, as you have known in your personal work as well, that people are kind of waning, whether there's another, initiative that they have to take care of or fundraise for or something like that. Attendance has been dropping. Our goal is to make these informative, collaborative, and helpful, and never to be a burden to anybody or their schedule. And so, like Maureen said, we'll pause on these for a while. We don't know when the next one will be. We will certainly send out emails about that, as we have been, but want to make the best use of everybody's time. And so we will be little worker bees working behind the scenes over here. So always feel free to reach out to us or ask questions, or do you know this answer, or can you introduce me to so-and-so, or I need to ship this. Then obviously we're still your go-to people for that. But outwardly, the initiative will look a little bit different. So we wanted to just clarify that for everybody, and also let them know the reasoning why. So first of all, do we have any questions about that?
Can you pair up people sending less than a container with others? Are you still going to work in that fashion, even though
we
even
can
though-
try to do that? It's not that we just haven't had a lot of people that have tried to send less than a container, to be honest. So the warehouse space that we were using, we can check to see if they're still offering that, but depending on how much you're shipping, you might just want to consider a 20-foot container instead of an LCL, only because when you look at the actual logistics of it and the costs, when you ship an LCL, there's all these costs that kind of start to tack on. Like, there's so many more touches to a shipment that when you get to a certain point, it's almost equal pricing to ship a 20-foot container, because it's like a handful of touches or less than it is to ship 8 or 9 pallets worth. So we can definitely talk with you about that, but it's just there's the consolidation at origin and the trucking and all of the origin sort of multiple touches to it. And then the same is true on the destination side, that at every touch point someone's charging something, and the accessorial fees start to accumulate, where there is a balance where you might want to compare it. It depends on how much you want to send.
And that was one of the things we learned as well. We had secured the warehouse. We were like, people are just going to have pallets. They're going to send them here. And so that was something we set up from the beginning. And then that's what we discovered. Either people are like, I have a container, I'm good, thanks, I don't need the LCL, or the cost and time and other things made it too prohibitive for them to, they just wanted to go with the smaller container to get something over there versus doing the bundling of LCLs.
And we also had a couple times, Fred, that where someone had a pallet or two, and then we were loading another container at like another shipper, and they just wanted to get it to the destination. They didn't necessarily care where it was going. Like we had someone who collected a lot of donated goods. So we had paired them up with, I think it was Vlad, who's not on the call today, but he was loading a container. It was going to a church. So this shipper had sent the goods to Vlad, and he just loaded it on his container and then distributed it with the other donated goods. So it could be like a case by case basis. Just that might be a better way to look at it as to how you want to do that.
Yeah, I remember Vlad on the call. I guess, and I just saw the thing that Lee sent in the chat.
Yeah.
There may be smaller individuals that I'm not saying send it as less than a container load, but consolidate 5 or 6 organizations what they have into a 20-foot container, and then split the cost is kind of what I was asking. Really, is
never hurts to ask, and we can certainly ask. If anybody else has other supplies, we're ready to go over as well.
And I know Atlas Logistique has warehouse space available in Venezia, Kharkiv, Dnipro, and so that's a possibility on the other side, if necessary. And again, I'm not a logistics person, but that's what I'm trying to accomplish is to get what we have there. And Lee, I'll be in touch with you too. So
reach out to us and we'll try and come up with a solution that works, so maybe it's the one that you came to the table with, or maybe it's something
Yeah.
180 degrees different, as long as the end result is the same, and we can try and be conscious of costs and timing and needs and all of that, that's what we're here to do, is to try and bring some logistical expertise as well, to see maybe an angle that we hadn't considered before.
Right.
Yeah. Or a connection for sure.
Mhm. Any other questions?
I
Oh,
do.
go ahead.
The other thing I guess I would say, and I was not able to be on the call last month, and I feel bad about that, but I was sick as a dog.
Please don't.
What's behind stopping this as the discussion for an hour a month or so? Because anyway,
Yeah,
I
it's a
want,
couple of different.
I
Yeah, it's a
wonder
couple of different
if
factors.
at least the conversation, keeping that alive, would be beneficial, and if there's another outlet to do it,
Mhm.
we could if necessary, but I'd hate to see you've created a neat little integrated group, and I would like to there will be other needs, whether it's directly to shipping or not, and I'd hate to see this group disband
Yeah.
because of that. So
Yeah.
I said that.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for asking. Yes, so there's a couple of things behind that. One, is the fact that we, like everybody else, thought this was going to be a shorter term initiative. But thank God Ukraine is still hanging on and they are still out there fighting every day. So it was just not something we could sustain for years, basically, when we know there's still so much work to be done. So there's that factor of just the funding. The second, also, just as we said, even from the request for shipping standpoint and just the meetings, there was a dwindling interest that we've noticed as well. Marina's not getting as many requests. People haven't been showing up as much. So, and everybody's busy, everybody has things going on, but that's the thing. Everybody's busy, everybody has things going on. And so that is one factor, of course, wanting to make them as useful as possible. But we have seen dwindling interest. The other thing is one of the things that, we have several team members on here. One of the things we all love about Vector is they want to get in there, they want to get things done. They also want to respond to needs that are important to our team members as well. And so I did a survey among our team members and asked them, which causes are the most important. And we also have offices, in case you didn't know. For example, we have 2 offices in Mexico. 2 of our team members are joining us from each of those offices. We have 2 offices in Chile. We have people throughout Asia. So people are also interested in what's going on in their backyard. We're no stranger to violence here in the US, unfortunately. Neither are they in Mexico or Chile or anywhere else. And so people also, their interest had shifted more to helping they want us in the company and to also be involved in their own backyard more. And so the funding was also going to have to come from somewhere else too. So it was sort of a combination of factors and kind of all merging at the same time. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else have a question?
Just a comment. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you today. Yes.
This is good. That was so frustrating yesterday. Not being able to talk. I gained a lot of empathy for individuals who have those types of disabilities. Just to say, I've been greatly appreciative of this initiative. My apologies. I had a scheduling conflict
it happens
every time we were meeting, so I couldn't join you more than just a couple of times, not for lack of interest, but for lack of trying to prioritize, too many things. But yeah, I think that I have so appreciated very much Vector, leaning into this, kind of a thing. Just to comment further on my chat, and that is I partnered with other organizations in Minnesota if we can arrange, in a sense, a common destination as to where it goes, I ask them simply to pay, the share for their capacity of the cost going. And yeah, very happy to do that going forward. I don't know where one is. I know sometimes it's a greater cost to get it to Minnesota than it is to get lots of other places. But if we can partner, happy to do it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Mark, did I see you reaching for your unmute button?
You did actually, yes, Christy. I was struggling with it actually. I was changing backgrounds and everything by mistake there. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, sorry, I arrived on the call about 20 minutes late, so I did miss the beginning of the call. The reason for my lateness actually was I was on another call. I'm currently in Kiev. I've been here for over a week now. And I just came in on the tail end of Frederick's comments. I think, Frederick, you've been here quite recently, have you? And so I can kind of relate to a little bit of what's going on. It's been quite a baptism of fire, actually. One of the question I was going to ask. One of the things that we're focusing on right now, and bizarrely, it's become very pertinent today. My company, Red Source, we're a supply company, and we've been supplying all sorts of aid and equipment into Ukraine for over a year now, from the beginning of the conflict. And we've kind of, as the need has changed, we've changed with it. So it's gone a little bit down on the humanitarian side, but it's focusing more now on stability operations and kind of like mission support, that sort of thing. So we've identified certain products that are needed for almost like for the redevelopment phase, but kind of not quite the redevelopment, but just the interim sort of thing. So we've been working very much on water filtration and water pumps, because obviously as we all know, the infrastructure has been decimated, particularly before the winter. So we've been supplying pumps and things like that into the country. And of course now with the dam breach, which took place just last night, the reason I was late on the call was the demand, the requirement for pumps now has gone pretty significant, and my phone's been ringing off the hook pretty much all day today. So what the question I was going to ask, getting to the question, one of our suppliers for water filtration units is actually a US-based company based in Atlanta. And the filtration units that they have for us are kind of like 10-foot container size. So the filtration is, but it's in a containerized unit. If and when we are shipping those across from Atlanta to Ukraine, is that something you think that Vector could assist us with? I don't mean from a donation or anything donation point of view, but just to basically get the job done at a sensible cost, or the best possible cost, so that we can utilize any extra money elsewhere. Do you think you could assist?
Yes, for sure. Yes. Let us send us an email, and we will connect you with the right people in the organization to help, find the best booking to get that on and get you the cost for that, for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
You jumped on a little bit late, I think, and I know that you've been attending some of the calls or following us, but our primary steamship line that we've been working with is Hapag-Lloyd, because they have been giving us their rates at cost, and then we're just passing them on to everybody, and have been the entire time at cost. So we try to go to them first because of the cost efficiency there. So we will definitely work with you on this and get you some rates and find the best way to get this over to you, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we'll make the connection then, and yes, Frederick, we'll let's have a chat about that as well, and see if we can join up and fill loads if necessary. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I say hopefully, the demand for our equipment has probably just increased tenfold, I would say, with what's gone on overnight. We've been very active here, as I say, since the start of the conflict, but it sounds almost like I'm going a little bit against the grain, where, as you rightly say, a lot of people have kind of had that initial desire and that ability to help, but then that whether they've got fatigue or what with it and other priorities, they've kind of moved slightly away now. There's still an interest, of course there is, but a lot of a number have kind of refocused their efforts. Red Source has actually gone the opposite way. So you may remember I didn't make the call last month, unfortunately, but I was on the call the month before that, and I mentioned then that Red Source was opening actually a physical office in Kiev. That's why I'm here, because that's all done now. We're actually a fully operational business in Kiev, and I've been here for like just over a week, and the amount of meetings I've had, I mean, I must have had about 7 a day, and which have gone on from early morning until late at night, interspersed with air raids and missile strikes and all sorts of things. It's been absolutely mental whilst I've been here. Even airstrikes in the daytime, which is kind of unusual, but that on the first day I arrived, there was the 11 o'clock in the morning, Patriot missiles flying across the beautiful blue sky, and cruise missiles racing in from all over the place, and explosions going off. It's been absolutely crazy, a crazy experience. Not actually it's been sort of enhanced as a crazy experience today when I've been walking down the street and I've actually inadvertently stumbled across a multi-funeral procession of, you wouldn't believe the amount of coffins that are going into the church. Honestly, it is such a sobering and unbelievable experience, and I wasn't expecting that at all. Just turn around the corner and all these young soldiers, 18, 19, 20-year-old soldiers that have been killed in the war, and all their friends and family there. It is very sobering, let me tell you. It really is. So as much as people's focus is drifting off, I fully understand that. There is still a core, and you can see by this call as well, there is still a core of people that still have a determination and a very dedicated focus to support Ukraine. For some of us, it hasn't gone away at all. So it is a shame, really, that you're probably rightfully choosing to step down a little bit and just not maybe have it every month or something like that. But honestly, I really feel that for the ones that are still trying to do something here, it is a useful little call. I found the call 2 months ago very useful, actually. And it's a shame that there won't be one probably next month, because I probably will have kind of experiences to share. Not only that, but requirements to share as well. That when you're on the ground and you've got operations here, you can find out exactly what's needed and how badly it's needed as well. Can
I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
One of two things: either is there a way for Vector to continue this call even though you're not funding? And if not, can I suggest we pass the call off to somebody that can or is willing to do it every month, just as a communication vector, to, for want of another word, because I agree, until you're on the ground and you see that, everything from a distance looks different, and this call is important, and I agree. I understand that interests are waning. Frankly, I've heard a lot of people say, well, isn't the government giving billions of dollars and I'm already supporting that, blah, 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 blah. So I get that, but this call, this time, and these connections, I would not have known that Lee could help.
Mhm.
And so I would encourage, either if you all can do it, try to do it. If you can't, don't let it drop, and let's, I'd be willing to do it if that's something you don't want to do, but don't let this group drop and the communication side of it drop.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely go back and talk to our team to see, how we could, if we're able to continue this on our own, or if we need to pass it off, and we can circle back with you guys about that for sure. And this is great feedback. I guess we didn't anticipate this, so it's. I don't think we can give yes for sure or absolutely not an answer right now, but Christine and I can talk later today and see who internally would be able to resource with this for sure.
Yeah.
And if you can't, I will. And if I'm not the best person, I think that there's somebody on this call that also can and probably will. But
Okay.
as an option of last resort, not as an option, I will do that.
Okay.
I think sometimes, guys, depending on, I think we all know that this war has protracted longer than we anticipated it would. And there can be an element of war fatigue, and sometimes things can kind of get a bit, dare I say, quiet when nothing really massive is happening. And so every month it's kind of like, well, what we're going to talk about this month, it's very repetitive of last month, and there's less people on the call and things like that. But then we have to be mindful, I think, that phases in the war will all of a sudden spark things off again. I think we're now right at the very, very start of the counteroffensive. It's going to be all over the news. In one day, there's already been a massive dam, strike, which is, the effects of that. Then it's been talked about could lead to, an impact on the nuclear power station, whether that's exaggeration or just, headline grabbing or what. By tomorrow, we could be in another headline that's even bigger, and then something else that's even bigger again. And then all of a sudden, we're all running around desperately needing calls like this, and more people will be on it again, because more people are involved and have needs, and the public interest. If you remember at the beginning when we all saw the exodus of hundreds, millions of people, right? Everybody felt compelled, right? Everybody felt I want to donate my clothes. I want to donate money. I want to donate medicine. I just feel I must do something. Yeah. In Europe, people were just jumping in their cars, loading them up with, a quick run around the neighbours, get a load of things, and driving to Poland, as far as they could go, and donating. That potentially could happen again. It could. And then a call like this will become suddenly reinvigorated and things like that. I understand, Frederick really wants to keep the calls going, but maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, and there will be quiet times. But is there a way we could essentially keep it alive, or just that we can reinitiate a call when the need arises? Do you know what I mean? So we don't lose contact. Vector is the driving force behind this, absolutely, and no, it won't be the same without the Vector stamp on it, if you like. Mm-hmm. But genuinely, yes, we've all got things to be getting on with or whatever. But if you can just keep the channels open, when it kicks off, and honestly, being here, it's going to kick off. It absolutely is. You can feel it in the air. What's the next thing? The next thing around the corner?
Yep.
It will need another call at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Constantine and the people I met. Constantine sent me on the 2nd. We are getting ready to do this offensive. You know,
Yeah.
I can show you the telegram. He's
Yeah.
a soldier at the front lines. The other thing to remember is right now we're in the middle of summer, and
Mhm.
that's probably the easiest time for Ukraine. It's when we get in toward the winter again, and the effects of this, you know, is going to be more profound, especially depending on how the war runs in the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
The other thing I would also say is, and I know Vector, I would think Vector would want to be, I know Vector would want, I would think Vector would want to be involved in this from a business standpoint. The rebuilding of Ukraine is going to be massive, and it's going to be the equivalent of the Marshall Plan for Ukraine, and they're going to they are rebuilding, watching, you know, citizens out rebuilding their own home, that sort of thing. They don't want hand-me-outs, is what they don't want welfare.
Sure.
That's what he said. We don't want welfare, but we need help, and that help is going to be lots and lots and lots of infrastructure, you know, shipments from Europe, and I would think the US. And I
Sure.
would think I would
Yeah.
just I would try to keep this together somehow, and that's why I offered that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to take it from Vector, but if it's just a matter of, you know, somebody to have to call and help you with the communication to cut the cost and time, I'm more than willing to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss that internally and kind of circle back with everybody in the next day or so. I know we're kind of wrapping up time-wise here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but also, you know, extend my appreciation for everybody being so open. And also, this is truly a reciprocal meeting. It's not, I'm glad that everybody spoke up and said we would like to do this or not, instead of just letting Christy and I talk, because you might think so, but we don't love hearing the sound of our own voice all the time. But one of the things that we just wanted to kind of conclude by celebrating the fact that, you know, in the past year and a half, that we collectively on this call, not just Vector, I'm saying all as anyone affiliated in this initiative, have been able to get over 900,000 pounds of aid to the region, which we are a small company. You know, everyone on this call, or I think 95% of the people that watch the video afterwards or who have attended, are not working for the Amazons and the Walmarts and the huge organizations that do kind of keep the economy running sometimes. And I think that we all should be really proud to be a part of this, because I know at Vector we are, but we know that this clearly was not a singular effort that occurred in a vacuum. And it's worth pointing out verbally, you know, how appreciative we are to have you all in our relationship sphere here in order to make things like this happen, because it's Ukraine right now, and this, we will still continue to be involved, but there's other things that we will get involved in the future, and we have in the past, that, you know, we want to continue to be part of the initiatives that are really using, you know, our logistics ability, our relationships to help drive change and provide assistance in a positive way. So I just want to thank everybody for being a part of that, and let's, you know, celebrate these successes and these accomplishments as a team. And so virtually, you know, do your own toast with your coffee or your water or whatever, but whatever time of day it is, wherever you are, you know, we really appreciate working with all of you, and thank you for all for being a part of this initiative with us. And whatever form it takes, starting, you know, after this call, you know, we're still here. So please reach out to us.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this and taking the initiative to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on everybody else's behalf, but I will. Thank you.
Yeah, very much appreciated, guys. Seriously.
Yeah.
I
It's
can-
been a tremendous learning experience, and my ancestry is Ukrainian, and it helps me go out into the community and open conversations and hopefully make connections that are important. And I am a storyteller, so if I can help anybody tell their story or help them refine it or be interviewed, reach out to me as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much to Vector. Wow.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank you for all you've done. You've been tremendous help, Christy and Maureen. Greatly
Yeah.
appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you
for the
all.
good
You all
work.
have a great day. Yeah.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.